I am an 8-tailed purple fox, and my husband is also an 8-tailed purple fox, yet we gave birth to a 6-tailed blue fox. Furious, he suspected that my 8-tailed fox bloodline was impure. He insisted on taking the newborn fox cub and me to the bloodline pool, a special place in the fox clan for testing lineage. The incident caused an uproar throughout the entire fox clan. The final result was that the fox cub was his own flesh and blood, while my lineage remained pure, instead. Upon seeing the results, he suddenly changed from his previous anger and told me to take the fox cub back to the manor first. His reason was that he had important matters to discuss with the elder of the bloodline pool, his father, Elder Jun. Though puzzled, I left with the fox cub afterward, but I secretly left behind the shadow flow stone my father had given me. It was during this stay that I discovered his secret. Junyi was not an 8-tailed purple fox. At the same time, news that my sister had given birth to an 8-tailed purple fox for the husband of the 7-tailed red fox spread instantly throughout the entire fox clan. After coming to my senses about Junyi's matter, I had intended to go find my father, but I was intercepted by Junyi, who returned to the mansion in a rage, and he directly locked both me and the fox cub in the dungeon. He knew I had the royal decree to contact my father, the king, without hesitation. He used forbidden arts to set up a barrier, cutting off my connection to both the king and queen. Ju Yao, aren't you supposed to be an 8-tailed fox? Why were you only born with 6 tails, while your sister had 8? It's your fault for being useless. Not only are you useless, but you also stole forbidden techniques. So what if I learned them? The useless one is you. It's you. Junyi was driven to madness by the word useless and tortured me until I was left with barely a breath. Later, he killed the fox cub right in front of me, and the shock was too much for my already weakened state. I died on the spot from sheer rage. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the day of the husband selection. Junyi immediately opposed my father's proposal for him to marry me, choosing my sister instead of me. In that instant, I understood he had also been reborn. But this time, I want to see just how many tails Junyi, a mere 3-tailed green fox, can grow without my help. Hello, everyone, welcome to my channel. Subscribe us to read wonderful novels every day. Now the story begins. Junyi, have you truly thought this through? In my days, my father's icy, furious voice pierced straight into my mind. Memories from my past life flashed before my eyes, and I suddenly snapped back to reality. Raising my hand to lightly touch my forehead, I was startled to find it covered in cold sweat. I wiped away the sweat and looked at the familiar grand hall before me. Unable to suppress the joy in my heart, had I been reborn? Junyi, aside from Ju Yao, you are the second 8-tailed purple fox among the younger generation of our fox clan. Marrying my Yaya is the most likely way to produce a 9-tailed fox in our clan. What are you doing now, Your Majesty? I have no interest in Princess Joyao. My heart has always belonged to the eldest princess. I beg Your Majesty to grant me permission to be with Princess Fushuan. A familiar yet resolute voice echoed through the grand hall. Following the sound, I looked over and caught a fleeting glimpse of disdain and resentment in Junior's eyes as he knelt in the center of the hall. I recalled his words just now and sneered inwardly. Sure enough, he had also been reborn. The tragic scenes from my past life flashed through my mind, and I closed my eyes in pain. Since he's so eager, I'll grant him his wish. Father, since he's so enamored with my sister, let's grant them their wish. As for giving birth to the 9-tails bloodline, we've waited 10,000 years already. What's the rush now? I opened my eyes and said calmly, this, very well, father will heed your words. The Fox King frowned, about to refuse, but after some thought, he relented. Fushuan, what do you think? Are you willing? The Fox King looked at Fushuan and asked, your child is willing. Father, what if your husband isn't as good as you imagine? Are you certain you won't regret it, sister? I suddenly turned to look at Fushuan kneeling beside Junior and asked in a serious tone, I will never regret it. Fushuan met my gaze with unwavering determination in her eyes. I couldn't help but sneer inwardly. Very well. Whether it's boundless riches or an abyss of despair, let her experience it for herself. Yao Yao, what do you think of choosing this Beiming? He's not bad after all. The king's voice was full of doting as he inquired. I glanced at Beiming before withdrawing my gaze, then turned to cling to the Fox King's arm and said, Father, let's stop here for today. Your daughter is still young and doesn't want to marry yet. I want to spend more time with you and mother. All right, as you wish, my Yao Yao. When my Yao Yao marries, she must marry the very best. Though Beiming isn't bad either, it's fine if we don't choose him. The Fox King pondered for a moment and quickly came to a realization. Yaoa was the most outstanding and beloved fox cub under his care. How could he have been so foolish as to consider selecting a seven-tailed fox as her husband? Alright, that concludes today's husband selection. Everyone may return now. After the Fox King finished speaking, he left the grand hall, leaving only me, Junyi, and Fu Xian inside. I had nothing to say and was about to leave when Junyi suddenly called out to me, his voice brimming with smug arrogance, "Princess Jiuyao, you must attend our wedding in 7 days. I would be most honored to receive your blessing." Before I could respond, Fu Xian immediately chimed in. "Yes, little sister, I'm also looking forward to receiving your blessings." "Got it, anything else?" I said indifferently. Junyi was disappointed because I didn't show the disappointment he had anticipated. I sneered inwardly, what a fool. Did he really think I liked him in my past life? Ridiculous. Junyi still wanted to say something. But I no longer wished to listen. Turning to leave the grand hall, seeing this, Junyi's face darkened with anger, and he too turned to leave without a second glance at Fu Xian, who remained standing there. Fu Xian watched Junyi's retreating figure, gnashing her teeth in hatred. Jiuyao, it was always Jiuyao. Since childhood, no matter what it was, she had always outshone her, always been more dazzling. She refused to accept defeat, this time. She must give birth to a 9-tailed fox before that wretched girl Jiuyao, no matter the cost. The 7th day after the husband selection was the wedding of Junior and Fushuan, and during these 7 days, I pored over all the ancient texts in the clan. Finally, within an ancient tome, I discovered useful information. Ancient texts mention that not far behind the Fox King's palace lies a sacred mountain. This sacred mountain is the greatest secret of every Fox King, for only the direct lineage of the Fox King can know of its existence and enter its grounds. This is also why, during the husband selection ceremony, my father no longer allowed me to choose a mate. First, it's a mismatch, and second, it's the 9-tailed white fox from the Johua cave in the Divine Mountain. Legend has it that the Divine Mountain of the Fox clan has existed for tens of thousands of years. Or even longer, meaning the mountain was there before the Fox clan even came into being. The Divine Mountain is rich in spiritual energy, with magical herbs covering its slopes, making it a treasure trove of a mountain. This is also why the Fox clan built the Fox King's palace not far from the Divine Mountain. At the heart of the Divine Mountain lies a cave with the most concentrated spiritual energy, known as the Nine Splendors Cave. Within the cave dwells a powerful 9-tailed white fox. Though the area around the cavern is protected by a formidable barrier, preventing anyone from approaching, I figured, if I wanted to give birth to a 9-tailed fox, why not just find one directly? Why waste time selecting a husband and gambling on probabilities? As it happened, the Fox King thought the same way, so father and daughter immediately reached an agreement. He directly decided to let me enter the sacred mountain with the Fox clan's royal decree to search for the 9-tailed elder. After discussing with my father, I decided to enter the sacred mountain and seek out Johua cave right after Fushuan's wedding. The day after the wedding, I packed my belongings and was about to leave my palace for the sacred mountain. Just as I stepped out, I saw Junior standing before me with Fushuan by his side. I had no choice but to stop and glare at them coldly. "What business do you have stopping me? Little sister, what kind of talk is this? Although you attended elder sister's wedding yesterday, elder sister was busy at the time and doesn't recall hearing your congratulations for the happy occasion." My sister leaned gently into Junior's embrace as she spoke, casting a triumphant and thoroughly provocative glance my way. "Oh, then I wish my sister and her royal consort an early blessing of 9-tailed offspring to strengthen our Fox clan. At least you know your place." With that, I walked away without waiting for Fushuan's response. She merely cast a meaningful glance at Junior before swiftly striding past the two of them. That look of mine made Junior's heart clench, though his face remained composed. Then he turned and spoke coldly and disdainfully to my retreating figure. "Jiuyao, your sister and I will surely produce the most noble fox cub in the entire Fox clan, something you could never achieve in this lifetime." "Oh," I lazily replied with a single word. Who knows where Junior got such confidence from? In her past life, she had gone to great lengths to give birth to a 9-tailed bloodline. She even begged the Queen Mother for a secret technique to awaken the 9-tailed lineage. After exhausting most of her spiritual power, she thought that even if she couldn't get 9 tails, she should at least end up with 8. The result was only a single blue 6-tailed fox, yet I never doubted the purity of his bloodline. He, on the other hand, had the audacity to suspect me and the fox cub first. Fox clans are divided into 9 ranks, from highest to lowest, 9 tails to 1 tail, with colors being white for 9 tails, purple for 8 tails, red for 7 tails, and blue for 6 tails, orange for 5 tails, grey for 4 tails, green for 3 tails, yellow for 2 tails, and pink for 1 tail. He was a natural-born 3-tailed fox who had only advanced to 8 tails by relying on forbidden dark arts to evade heavenly lightning. And yet, he still looked down on my 6-tailed fox cub as being too low in rank, saying my bloodline was impure. How laughable. Jun Yi's face darkened with rage. Ju Yao, that wretched woman, he'd see just how many tails her fox could grow in this lifetime without him. Jun Yi, after leaving, I channeled my spiritual energy and set off. Within a quarter of an hour, I arrived at the foot of the divine mountain, gazing at the divine mountain shrouded in white mist like a celestial realm. I suddenly felt as if something was calling to me. Puzzled, I took a step forward, just about to enter the divine mountain when an unexpected change occurred. My body was enveloped by a sudden burst of white light. I was about to speak when I suddenly blacked out the next second, and my body vanished from the spot. When I woke up, I found myself lying on a smooth stone bed covered in soft white fur. I was also covered with some unknown animal's fur, pure white and incredibly soft. Startled, I quickly sat up and looked around through the white gauze curtains. To my astonishment, I realized this cave dwelling might actually be the legendary Johua cave described in ancient texts. Is my luck just too ridiculously good? I hadn't even started searching yet, and here I am inside it the moment I opened my eyes. As these thoughts crossed my mind, I prepared to get off the stone bed to look around. Perhaps Senior Nine-Tailed Fox was somewhere in the cave. But just as I lifted the gauze curtain and my left foot touched the soft floor mat, a deep, magnetic voice sounded right by my right ear. Awake, startled by the voice, I jerked my left foot back and abruptly released the gauze curtain I was holding. My head instinctively turned to the right. There stood a strikingly handsome man dressed in white robes, his long silver hair cascading freely. The man had a fiery red teardrop mark between his brows, lending his celestial beauty a touch of wicked charm. At that moment, he was gazing at me with a faint smile. I was momentarily spellbound, but quickly snapped out of it. Who wasn't a beauty these days? Yan Chen's smile grew even more pronounced as he watched my flustered expression. A pleasant male voice rang out. Little fox, is this Fox Clan King's token yours? What's your name? My name is Juyao, princess of the Fox Clan. The king's token was given to me by my father, I replied politely. Juyao, have you come of age? How many tails were you born with? Yan Chen continued asking me, this time with more amusement in his voice. I've come of age, just turned 1,000 this year, with 8 tails, I answered softly and honestly as before. 1,000 years old, born with 8 tails, quite remarkable potential. So are you a 9-tailed fox elder? I watched Wang Ling lying perfectly still in his hand, my voice tinged with urgency. Because Wang Ling would only be deathly afraid and remain completely motionless in the hands of a 9-tailed fox. What do you think? Not just anyone can live in this Johua cave. Hearing this, I was overjoyed. It really was Senior Ninetails. This trip wasn't in vain. Senior Ninetails, may I ask you for a favor? I looked at Yan Chen with hopeful eyes. My voice soft and sweet. Speak, he replied without refusal. Practice dual cultivation with me. I could no longer care about whether it was embarrassing or not. Cough. Cough, what did you say? Yan Chen was shocked by my words, his face full of astonishment, his ears turning completely red. Such an innocent old fox. Yan Chen was indeed a bit startled. Though he had entertained the idea, he had planned to take things step by step. Who would have thought this little fox would be so, cough, so fervently passionate? I was a bit nervous at first, but seeing Kyubi's reaction suddenly made me feel not just calm, but terrifyingly strong. Without waiting for Kyubi to react, I immediately reached out with both hands and wrapped them around his waist. The moment I held him, I felt his body stiffen. He quickly snapped out of it and tried to pull my hands away from his waist. I won't let go, and I'm holding even tighter. Joyao, what are you doing? Let go now. Yan Chen's voice had already grown hoarse. I won't let go. Senior Jiuwei, look into my eyes. Can you honestly say you don't have any feelings for Joyao? I blinked my eyes, gazing at Jiuwei with a watery, pleading look. Her voice was deliberately made pitiful and endearing. I refuse to believe I can't win over this old fox. Yan Chen was left speechless by my question, because he did indeed have feelings for her. Otherwise, he wouldn't have used magic to bring her to Johua Cave before she even set foot on the sacred mountain. Don't regret it. I'm a much older fox than you are. Yan Chen's hand stopped moving as he looked down at me, his voice hoarse and low. I don't regret it. An old fox has his own charms. So, Elder Ninetails, when can we start dual cultivation? I asked him with a laugh while nestled in his arms. Yan Chen listened to my words and also laughed. His hands, which had been resting at his sides, reached out and pulled me into his embrace. Then he whispered softly in my ear, "Yeah, you don't need to call me Ninetails Elder anymore, just call me Yan Chen. As for dual cultivation, when would you like to?" Yao Yao. My eyes lit up the moment I heard it. This was promising. I rose from his embrace, then gave him a gentle push. Yan Chen yielded to the motion and tumbled backward onto the stone bed behind him. "Of course, the sooner the better," I said to Yan Chen with a faint smile. His eyes were a strikingly beautiful golden color, and at that moment, they were filled with the fire of passion and allure, staring straight at me, intently watching. That old fox, damnably alluring, stirred a whirlwind of emotions within me. With a sigh, I plopped right onto Yan Chen's lap only to accidentally land on the wrong spot. Yan Chen let out a muffled groan. The area around my eyes started turning red as well. On the surface, I looked pitiful and innocent, but inwardly, I was bursting with joy. The old fox has fallen for it. The next second, Yang Chen's hand gripped my slender waist. In a swift motion, our positions reversed. He was on top while I lay beneath. "Yaroa, you were the one who provoked me first. Don't beg for mercy later." I was just about to retort with a few words. My words were cut off by Yan Chen's scorching, domineering kiss, and soon we were lost in the pleasures of love. A night of spring is worth 1,000 pieces of gold. Humans really do know how to put things beautifully. And so, Yan Chen and I spent 3 whole months entwined in passion within the Jiuhua cave. During those 3 months, our feelings for each other grew intensely and rapidly. I also learned the secret that the Queen Mother had mentioned before I came to the Divine Mountain. It turns out I carry the bloodline of the Ninetails, but it has been sealed. Only a powerful individual with the same bloodline can break the seal for me. Originally, the Queen Mother had planned to use a secret technique to release the seal, but such methods ultimately harm the body. Yan Chen was the perfect candidate. It was also at this time that the Fox King sent a message through the royal decree, announcing that my dear sister was pregnant, and there was a chance she was carrying the bloodline of the Ninetails. Leaning against Yan Chen's chest, I secretly sneered. She had finally conceived. Now was the time to return to the palace. After all, I was also a player in this game. Thinking this, I looked up at Yan Chen, about to speak when suddenly I was overcome with nausea and retched dryly. Hearing this, Yan Chen quickly asked what was wrong. I shook my head to say it was nothing, only to retch again the next second. Seeing this, Yan Chen frowned anxiously, his eyes filled with concern as he held me tightly. After calming down, I leaned weakly into Yan Chen's embrace. Suddenly, I recalled the reactions I had during my pregnancy in my past life, also nausea and dry heaving. Could it be, am I pregnant? Thinking this, I quickly channeled my spiritual energy to probe my abdomen. Soon, I sensed the intense life force within my belly. Yan Chen seemed to guess something from my movements. When I looked at him, I met his golden eyes filled with anticipation. "Congratulations, Chen, you're going to be a father," I said with a smile as I congratulated Yan Chen. Yan Chen laughed, a joyful laugh, and carefully placed his large hand on my belly, gently stroking it. A slightly choked voice sounded in my ear. "Thank you, Yaroa. This is my first child in 20,000 years. Before meeting you, I never thought I'd have the chance to become a father." "Old fox, don't you dare cry. Your Highness is carrying fox cubs right now and is very susceptible. If you cry, I'll cry too." Okay, I'm just excited." Not crying, Yaroa. Besides feeling nauseous, is there anywhere else you're feeling unwell?" "No, I'm just a little hungry. I want to eat fish, roasted chicken, I want to eat everything." "Alright, I'll satisfy all of Yaroa's wishes." Yan Chen planted a doting kiss on my forehead, speaking in a gentle voice. "Oh right, Chen, I've been at the Divine Mountain for 3 months now. It's about time I return to the Fox King's palace." "Go back, by yourself. What about me? Yeah. You can't just love em and leave em." As soon as Yan Chen blurted this out, I immediately swatted him lightly on the head. "What nonsense are you thinking? Have you been reading too many human storybooks? Of course I'm taking you with me. You're the father of my fox cubs." "He's just the father of the fox cub." Yang Chen looked at me with a pitiful expression after hearing this. "Of course, he's still my man, my future royal consort. Gotta pamper my own man, right, if he wants recognition. Just give it to him." I'm yours." Yang Chen cheered up instantly. "Well, that old fox is so easy to please. Can we go back tomorrow then?" "Of course we can. Let's eat first. You're eating for 2 now, can't go hungry." Yan Chen spoke while gently lifting me from his embrace to settle me comfortably, then went to prepare food for me. Watching his tall, straight-backed figure, I touched my belly as a blissful smile spread across my face. Having him in this lifetime, it's truly wonderful. Early the next morning, Yanchen and I got up early, had a quick bite, and then left Johua Cave directly, heading for the Fox King's palace, with the old fox around. Returning to the Fox King's palace was a matter of minutes. In less than a quarter of an hour, the two arrived at the main hall of the palace, Qingqiu Hall. As soon as they arrived, the Fox King and Queen came forward to greet them warmly, asking about their well-being. The two elders initially intended to pay their respects to Yanchen, despite him being only 20,000 years old, but she's a nine-tailed white fox, the most noble bloodline of the Fox clan. But Yanchen refused, saying he was now just my husband, the son-in-law of the Fox King and Queen. How could a son-in-law let his parents-in-law bow to him? The Fox King and Queen were convinced. And this little episode passed. Then the four began chatting about family matters, and the Fox King mentioned that members of the Fox clan had been disappearing frequently lately, but there was no way to find out who did it, and I suddenly thought of the forbidden technique Junyi used in his previous life. Father, when Junyi had his bloodline tested, the bloodline pool showed he was a born eight-tailed purple fox. Right, yes, your mother and I, along with all the elders, were present. Was there anything unusual about it? No. What's wrong, Yao Yao? Do you suspect Junior? Yes. Please investigate his mother and elder Jun from the bloodline pool. Very well. The Fox King seemed to have thought of something too, his expression turning solemn as he agreed. After the conversation ended, Yanchen and I returned to the palace chambers. Soon, the news of my safe return from the Divine Mountain while pregnant, along with the revelation of my six-tailed fox husband, spread throughout the Fox clan. On the third day of my return, Lord Yi and his wife couldn't wait to pay me a visit. What else could it be about? Nothing more than coming to mock and ridicule me. After all, the child in my womb is only that of a six-tailed fox, while theirs might just be a nine-tailed fox. When Junior and Fushuan arrived, I was reclining on the chaise lounge beneath the crabapple tree with my eyes closed. Resting, Yanchen sat beside me on a round stool, occasionally feeding me pieces of fruit. Little sister, what could possibly trouble you so? Even if you couldn't find the nine-tailed elder in the Divine Mountains, how could you settle for a mere six-tailed fox? Exactly. And to even be carrying his child, the second prince has truly let himself fall into depravity. Before the person arrived, their voice came first, quite the show-off. As the words fell, Junyi and Fu Xian's figures finally appeared beneath the crabapple tree. Both of them spotted Yang Chen at first glance. After all, his striking beauty was impossible to miss. Fu Xian was utterly mesmerized. He was even more handsome than Junyi. What a pity. It's just a six-tailed fox. Fushuan withdrew her gaze, her eyes filled with disdain. Junior's expression also darkened. After all, he prided himself on being the most handsome man in the Fox clan. I opened my eyes but merely glanced at them indifferently, saying nothing. Then, for some inexplicable reason, those two idiots flew into a rage, convinced I was looking down on them, and began spewing all sorts of vile insults. The coldness in Yanchen's eyes beside me was already unbearable, but I didn't let him act. I still ignored them, waiting until they were tired of talking before leisurely responding with a few words. May I ask what you two are so anxious about? Weren't you so confident in your own child? What? Could it be that the fox cub in your belly, sister, isn't even as good as my six-tailed fox cub? My gaze drifted lightly towards Fushuan's belly, though I hadn't done anything at all, yet the complexions of those two instantly turned several shades paler. Fushuan instinctively raised a hand to cover her stomach, her eyes beginning to dart about uneasily, as if recalling something unpleasant. I wanted to say more. Junyi and Fu Xian hastily left my bedchamber first. Watching their flustered retreating figures, I chuckled and muttered, how absurd. No sooner had I spoken than Yang Chen vanished from my side, yet he returned after just a short while. Got it out of my system. I smiled and teased the man. My wife Yang Chen and our fox cub, no one else gets to gossip about or insult them. Yes, don't worry. The day our fox cub is born will be their last. They truly deserve to die. One of them actually harmed their own kin just to practice forbidden arts and boost their cultivation. A woman who would stop at nothing to give birth to the nine-tails, even resorting to forbidden dark arts that defied the heavens, harming herself in the process. They were truly birds of a feather, deserving of their wretched fate. The very next day after returning to the palace, Yanchen and his father thoroughly investigated Junior's background. They discovered that Junior's deceased mother had partial ancestry from the witch clan, a lineage most notorious for their mastery of forbidden arts. Junior's eight-tailed bloodline was temporarily altered through forbidden arts, with the assistance of his father, an elder of the bloodline pool. Creating an innate eight-tailed bloodline was simple enough, but maintaining this forbidden technique required the power of his own kind. Thus, the Fox clansman became the source of his sustained power. Yanchen was furious, never imagining the Fox clan had fallen to such depths. Once one of the three great clans of the demon race that produced countless talents, how unpredictable fate can be. Looking at Yanchen's gloomy expression, I knew exactly what was on his mind. With a gentle smile, I comforted him softly. "All right, we may have declined now, but aren't we still here? Trust me. The Fox clan will surely regain its former glory." Yanchen looked at me with a gentle smile and softly responded with a quiet Time flew by, and soon 7 months had passed. The due date for both my sister and me had arrived. Though we were supposed to give birth on the same day, my sister went into labor early because Junior had gone to the pleasure house to enjoy himself with a seductive fox spirit. Not only that, Junior even brought that fox spirit back to the mansion and took her as his concubine. Not only that, but the concubine would flaunt her status in front of the elder sister every day, and just today, that concubine made another scene, directly provoking the elder sister. This caused her emotions to fluctuate too violently, advancing her delivery date by a full 5 days, resulting in a premature birth. At the Junior residence, in the reception hall, the Fox King, Fox Queen, and the clan elders had all gathered. Derek and I were also there, seated beside the king, looking down at Junyi kneeling in the center of the hall. The expressions of the elders were all grim. After all, the fox cub in Fushuan's belly might be a 9-tailed fox, though who knows where that confidence came from. But now she's been provoked into premature labor, and it's the cub's own father who committed this heartless act. Junyi, aren't you going to explain yourself to this king? The Fox King's sharp vulpine eyes bore straight into Junyi. Your Majesty, this subject has nothing to say. Visiting the brothel and taking a concubine are both facts. I beg for your Majesty's punishment. With these words, Junyi kowtowed deeply, his remorse overflowing with sincerity. Father, let it go. After all, he's still the father of your fox cubs. Just dispose of that concubine to vent some anger for elder sister, that should suffice. I turned the question back to Junior. What do you think, brother-in-law? Junior had already lifted his head by then, hearing my suggestion. His eyes were filled with a chilling coldness. Ignoring him, I continued to gaze at him with a beaming smile. In my past life, Junior had doted on that glamorous concubine, treasuring her like the apple of his eye. You ask why? Of course. It was because that beautiful concubine and Junyi had grown up together since childhood, and they had even secretly pledged their lives to each other. Moreover, she particularly admired him, greatly satisfying his vanity. When old flames reunite, it's like dry wood meeting a fierce fire. Passion reignites instantly. I have no objections, Junyi said through clenched teeth before closing his eyes in resentment. Just a concubine, dead is dead. Once he ascends to the throne as the Fox King, what female fox wouldn't be his for the taking? When his eyes opened again, they were calm and unruffled. Joyao, once Fushuan gives birth to the 9-tailed fox and I become the Fox King, by then, you must die. Guards, dispose of the seductive concubine, the Fox King commanded without hesitation. Yes, after this little episode passed, the drawing room quieted down once more. They waited and waited. 3 whole hours went by. Where? 3 loud cries resounded throughout the entire mansion. Accompanying the cries were colorful auspicious clouds filling the sky and a faint floral fragrance lingering in the air. Colorful auspicious clouds, 100 flowers bloom, the fox people kneel in worship. The 9-tailed bloodline has been born. The crowd in the hall cheered excitedly, for the hope of the Fox clan had finally arrived. Both the Fox King and Queen wore expressions of joy. Your Majesty, let us first see what this little 9-tailed cub looks like. Go ahead. As soon as the Fox King finished speaking, the elders left the living room and headed toward the delivery chamber. As for me and Yanchen, on the surface, I appeared utterly heartbroken, as if deeply wounded, while Yanchen wore an expression of tender concern as he comforted me. Actually, we were whispering to each other. Husband, was the scene like this when you were born? No, it was much grander. This can't compare to mine. You're amazing. Will our little fox cub be the same as you when it's born? Yes. Because his mother is also a 9-tailed fox, so the scene when our cub is born will be even more spectacular. But Yao, even if our little fox isn't born a 9-tailed fox, he's still our child, isn't he? Yanchen's words warmed my heart. I gently stroked my pregnant belly and said, yes, as long as he's born healthy, I'll be at ease. Let me grieve for a while first, that Mr. Jun is looking at me again. Alright Tilda. Yang Chen responded to me with both doting and helplessness in his voice. Junyi gazed at the extraordinary phenomenon, his eyes filled with wild joy. A nine-tailed fox. Ha 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 ha. Soon, he would become the Fox King. The most revered figure in the entire Fox clan. Ju Yao, your time of death is approaching. Junyi looked at me, utterly heartbroken and disbelieving, nestled in Yang Chen's arms, his voice brimmed with provocation. Princess Ju Yao, look, my nine-tailed fox cub has already been born, while yours, at best, will only have 7 or 8 tails. Ha 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 ha. After speaking, seeing me appear even more devastated, he burst into laughter again. Junyi, that's enough, mind your words. The Fox King said calmly, yes, my lord, I was too overjoyed and forgot my manners. I beg your forgiveness. The Fox King paid him no further attention as the elders returned from visiting the nine-tailed fox cub. Each wore expressions of delight, clearly quite pleased with the young fox. Your Majesty, the fox cub is very healthy, and its bloodline is exceptionally pure. There is hope for our fox clan to restore its former glory. Nonsense. That's Yang Chen's genuine nine-tailed fox bloodline, of course it's pure. I rolled my eyes hard in my heart. Good, Junyi, you and Fu Xian shall return to the palace tomorrow. With more people in the palace, the care will be more meticulous, and the fox cub can be better looked after. Also, as I've said, whoever gives birth to the nine-tailed fox shall become the new fox king or queen of our clan. So, returning to the palace will make it easier to hold the ceremony. Yes. This subject humbly obeys your Majesty's command. Having spoken, the Fox King assigned a few attendants to Junyi before departing for the Fox King's palace with the Queen and the elders. I couldn't be bothered to deal with that lunatic junior either. Since our goal was achieved, Yan Chen and I returned to the palace. This time, Junior didn't stop us, only watching us with a heavy gaze. Soon, 5 days passed, and I gave birth as expected. As for Junior and Fushuan, they were in complete panic because the time limit of the forbidden technique was approaching. Only 8 hours remained. Not only that, but the coronation ceremony is also set to begin in 8 hours. Meanwhile, in the delivery room, I was in so much pain I was nearly numb, yet the baby still hadn't arrived. Outside the door, Yan Chen listened to my cries of pain, his heart aching until his eyes turned red. Yeah, please let me come in to see you. Alright, I heard him. But I didn't have the strength to answer. In this agonizing time, only half an hour remained before the ceremony. In the delivery room, with one final push, I let out a loud cry. Where? The sound of vigorous newborn cries filled the heavens and earth. The baby is born, the second prince is born. The midwife's delighted voice rang out. Upon hearing that cry, I completely collapsed from exhaustion. The heavens and earth also changed color at the sound of that cry. Phoenixes sang in unison, dragons roared in celebration, colorful clouds filled the sky, spiritual rain fell, 100 flowers bloomed in full splendor, their fragrance permeating the air, and all beasts bowed in submission. This is the proper spectacle befitting the birth of a nine-tailed fox cub. The Fox clan members, witnessing the grand celestial phenomenon, all voiced their doubts. Didn't the nine-tailed fox cub already come into this world 5 days ago? What's the meaning behind this new celestial sign? Could it be that their Fox clan has been blessed with 2 nine-tailed cubs? Just as everyone was still puzzled, the Fox King and Queen, witnessing the grand celestial phenomenon, were already beside themselves with joy. The true nine-tailed bloodline of their Fox clan had finally been born. It was also time for their plan to come to fruition. When I woke up, Yan Chen was sitting by the bed holding the fox cub, keeping me company. Seeing me wake up, Yan Chen's eyes lit up. He first reached out to gently smooth my hair, then he lowered his head to plant a kiss on my forehead before helping me sit up against the headboard, his voice filled with tenderness and gratitude as he said, "You've worked hard. Yeah, are you feeling any discomfort anywhere?" "I'm fine, feeling wonderful. How's the little fox cub?" I asked softly. "The little fox cub is doing well. Very well behaved. Here, take a look," Yan Chen said, gently placing the sleeping cub into my arms with his large hand. I cradled the soft bundle, my gaze tenderly resting on the white, fluffy fox cub in my arms. "The cub's fox form looks exactly like yours," I said, looking up at Yan Chen. Yan Chen smiled warmly at my words. "Exactly the same. The cub knows how to grow just right, understanding what its mother likes." Yan Chen spoke while giving me a meaningful look, his eyes full of teasing. "So what? I just like it." I wasn't angry because it was true. I really did like Yan Chen's fox form. "Yes, Tilda, as long as Yaya likes it," Yan Chen responded dotingly. By the way, isn't the ceremony about to start? Yes, should we go now? Of course, those two must be going crazy with anger. I guessed right, Junyi and Fu Xian went absolutely mad when they found out I'd given birth to the nine-tailed fox, especially since the forbidden technique's time limit was almost up. Their frustration reached new heights. That bitch Ju Yao actually dared to deceive them. Junyi, how can you just accept this? The Fox King's throne that was almost within our grasp is about to slip away. Fu Xian sat by the bed, speaking with bitter resentment. Of course I won't accept it. So what if they gave birth to a nine-tailed fox? I'll make their cubs become nourishment for mine. Perhaps if our cub devours that bitch's child, it might truly become a nine-tailed fox. Junyi couldn't help but consider this possibility. After all, the reason he transformed from a three-tailed green fox into today's eight-tailed purple fox wasn't just because of forbidden techniques. Wasn't it also because he had devoured many high-ranking foxes? If he could do it, why couldn't his fox cub? Fu Xian listened to Junyi's thoughts and naturally recalled how he had become an eight-tailed purple fox. The mere thought that she had married a lowly three-tailed green fox by birth, while that wretched Ju Yao's husband was a noble nine-tailed white fox, she seethed with hatred. She burned with envy. Just what made Ju Yao so deserving? Since I, Fu Xian, cannot have the best, then I shall destroy it. Alright, let's hurry to the main hall then. Soon, Qingqiu Palace was filled with people, the Fox King and Queen, along with the elders of the clan. There were also representatives from the Dragon Clan, the Phoenix Clan, and other groups. Our family of three and Junyi's family of three had arrived as well. We stood facing each other, Junyi and Fu Xian glaring at us with venomous eyes. Seeing everyone assembled, the Fox King immediately declared the coronation ceremony begun. One ritual followed another until at last came the final stage, the ascension of the new king and queen, just as Junyi and Fu Xian stepped toward the throne with smiles on their faces. A sudden mutation occurred. The fox cub that had been lying quietly in Fu Xuan's arms suddenly began thrashing violently. Its body emitted a blinding crimson-black glow, drawing the gaze of everyone in the grand hall. Their faces paled in unison as terrified shouts erupted. Forbidden arts. It's forbidden arts. Junyi and Fu Xuan's expressions also turned panicked, and Fu Xuan's grip loosened slightly from the shock. This directly caused the fox cub in her arms to leap forcefully to the ground. As soon as it landed, the blanket wrapping it loosened, and the red-black glow dissipated. What appeared before everyone wasn't a nine-tailed white fox, but a four-tailed grey fox. How is it a four-tailed grey fox? Wasn't it said to be of nine-tailed lineage? Yes. And it seems they used forbidden arts to create this nine-tailed fox form. How utterly absurd. Has the Fox clan fallen so low that they resort to forbidden techniques to forge nine-tailed bloodlines? Indeed. The Fox King remained utterly unfazed by this spectacle, not uttering a single word as he watched silently. The crowd buzzed with gossip, their mocking and disdainful gazes all falling upon Junyi and Fu Xian as parents. Junyi's eyes blazed with a torrent of hatred and madness as each scornful word struck him. Fu Xian was no less affected, trembling with rage from head to toe. The next instant, Junyi whirled around abruptly, pointing his sword at the assembled crowd in the great hall and roared. "Shut your mouths, all of you." Everyone was frightened by his frenzied appearance, and the great hall instantly fell silent. Seeing this, Yan Chen shielded me and the cub behind him. With a flick of his right hand, a pure white longsword materialized in his grasp. I knew that was his life-bound weapon. What do any of you know? I, Junior, will surely become the new Fox King, the only nine-tailed fox in the Fox clan. As the words fell, Junyi stretched out his hand and pulled the trembling fox cub into his grasp. He said with a sinister tone, "You don't need to become a nine-tailed fox anymore. I'm more suitable." With that, he directly drained the cub's spiritual energy. In mere seconds, the cub turned into a desiccated corpse. Fu Xian was stunned by the scene before her. Coming to her senses, she gathered her spiritual energy and hurled it toward Junyi. Junyi didn't turn his head. With a mere flick of spiritual power from his left hand, he sent Fu Xian flying with severe injuries. Fu Xian let out a pained cry as she was flung backward, spitting several mouthfuls of blood before snarling viciously. "Junyi, may you die a wretched death, just a lowly three-tailed green fox. Yet you dared use forbidden arts to force me to bear a nine-tailed bloodline. Utterly laughable. Now you've even killed the child I risked my life to deliver, all to achieve nine tails yourself. Disgusting. Delusional. You don't know yet, do you? The forbidden technique was his doing, and those clansmen of ours who died in the fox tribe, he was the one behind it all. Everything he did was to become a nine-tailed fox. What, Junyi, you're nothing but a demon, a devil." "You're utterly unworthy of being one of our fox tribe," the fox clansman cursed in furious outrage. After hearing Fushuan and the clansman's words, Junior didn't get angry. Instead, he even laughed, but in the very next moment, the sword in his hand moved. It flew straight toward Fushuan with lightning speed, piercing her heart in a single thrust. Fushuan was dead. Annoying. With a flick of his hand, the sword returned to his grasp. "Yes, I did it all. So what? So what if I, Junior, am just a three-tailed fox? Soon I'll become the noble nine-tailed fox. I will rise to become the supreme ruler of the fox clan. I'll make you all grovel at my feet and serve as my slaves, over my dead body," I cursed loudly. Junyi, lost in his fantasy, gritted his teeth in hatred the moment he heard my voice. He glared at me fiercely and spoke, "Ju Yao, you bitch. Today not only will you die, but your fox cub will perish too." He immediately turned and attacked Yang Chen and me, his eyes turning cold. He cast a protective barrier around me and the fox cub before leaping into battle with Junyi. A nine-tailed fox is indeed a nine-tailed fox. Its strength is on a completely different level. Soon, Junyi was at a disadvantage. Yang Chen pierced his chest with a sword and then delivered a powerful palm strike, sending him crashing heavily to the ground not far from me. The sword only missed by a hair, because I still had words to say to him. For safety, Yan Chen also crippled his limbs. I stepped out of the barrier and handed the wailing fox cub to Yan Chen to hold. "After all, you're just a three-tailed green fox." Junyi stared at me with wide eyes, "because I'm also a nine-tailed fox, yet you killed him." As I spoke, I released my 9 fox tails. "No way." Junyi murmured in disbelief as he gazed at the 9 tails. "TCH. And the reason my sister could give birth to an 8-tailed fox in her past life was because her husband was actually a natural-born 8-tailed fox. Oh. By the way, there's one more thing. You didn't really think you could give birth to a 9-tailed fox just by relying on so-called forbidden techniques, did you?" Junior understood everything now. From the moment Joyao returned to the Fox King's palace from the Divine Mountain, this had all been their scheme from the very beginning, and he actually believed it. If it weren't for the trace of Yan Chen's 9-tailed bloodline protecting it, that child of yours would have been stillborn long before birth. Forbidden arts are forbidden precisely because they're too evil and harmful to be allowed, and yet you treat it as divine law. Never satisfied with using it on yourself alone, you even extended it to your children and sister. Junior, with the righteous path before you, you chose forbidden arts instead, not even sparing your own flesh and blood. The one who harms others and yourself is you. The self-deceiver is you. The utterly useless one is still you. So, whether in past lives or this one, the one who most deserves to die is you, Junyi." As soon as I finished speaking, Junyi's eyes suddenly closed, a single tear streaming from the corner. When he opened them again as if to say something, blood sprayed from his mouth instead. His eyes widened abruptly, his body convulsed a few times, then went still, dead with eyes unclosed. "Hey, I haven't even made a move yet." Junior died just like that, carrying in his heart unwillingness, resentment, regret, and self-loathing. And I've finally avenged my past self and my child, and taken revenge for those clansmen who died tragic deaths. I stood up and walked towards Yan Chen and the fox cub with a smile. From this life onward, every day would be filled with joy. The rest of my days with Yan Chen would also be filled with happiness.